Good morning, everyone. Welcome to True Corporation's Opportunity Day today. I have Khun Nakul with us. He is the co-CFO of True Corporation. My name is Noreen. I'm looking after investor relations. I would like Khun Nakul to start the presentation, and then we will continue with the business performance.
Swadika. Please allow me to walk you through the second quarter 2025 financial results of True. In terms of quarter 2 2025, I like to update on 4 accounts. First, we've had a very successful spectrum auction that got concluded in this quarter, based on which True has been able to get 70 megahertz of 2300 spectrum and 20 megahertz of 1500 spectrum as well. I will cover in a little bit more detail on the savings that we get and the benefits from a customer standpoint that we get from the spectrum. The second event in this quarter has been a one-time network outage that happened on 22nd of May, pursuant to which there was some impact on the financial results of the quarter, which Khun Noreen is going to explain in the subsequent slide. We want to confirm that the impact from the incident has nothing to do with the network modernization process that has been going on for the last 1.5 years. We have institutionalized all mitigations, and business continuity has been enforced across all the sides of the company so that this incident, which is a one-off in nature, does not happen again. As far as the overall performance, the Q2 normalized revenue and EBITDA are actually stable. And this is despite the intensifying macroeconomic headwinds and one-time impact that we had from the network incident. So we continue to report stable performance. In fact, year on year is actually definitely a growth trajectory for the company, as you already see. Looking at the headwinds that we have on the macroeconomics, the FY25 guidance has been revised downwards. However, the long-term guidance that we have given to the capital markets, which is primarily on account of 3 things. First, the EBITDA to service revenue percentage. Second, Capex to sales. And third, the leverage. All these 3 guidance for the year 2027 does remain unchanged. Last but not the least, after finishing the first 2.5 years of trying to realize the synergies from the amalgamation of DTAC and True, now we are focusing on growth-focused transformation is what we call it, where customer and strategy-focused organization is being institutionalized in the company. And we are going to continue with ongoing simplification of how we run the operations and how the customer experience gets positively impacted because of this. Then, just to give you a little bit more detail on the spectrum auction, as you can see from the slide, on the left-hand side, this is the spectrum portfolio, which is 8 bands of spectrum, which is a very healthy spectrum portfolio that True Corporation has today. Just to let you know, in the earlier regime, we used to have 60 megahertz of 2300 spectrum. Now we have 70 megahertz of 2300 spectrum. So 10 megahertz extra spectrum available on 2300. And further, we have actually purchased 20 megahertz of 1500 spectrum, all at a cost of about 26.4 billion over a 15-year period. Of this, 13.2 billion, which is a 50% payment, has already been made to the NBTC on 29th of July 2025 after the end of the quarter. Effective Q3 of 25, in fact, effective August 4 of 2025, we will be able to deploy this comprehensive spectrum portfolio. As I mentioned, the 2300 capacity will increase from 60 to 70 megahertz. We have had a strategic investment of 1500 megahertz as well, which is 20 megahertz of spectrum. And with this rich spectrum portfolio, we will be able to refarm the entire 2600 megahertz spectrum to 5G. And we are uniquely positioned to take advantage of this rich spectrum portfolio. On the network modernization, which is the combination of DTAC and True network into one network, 94% of network modernization has been completed in Q2. And we are on track to modernize the entire 18.5 thousand sites by Q3 of 25. In terms of the benefits that we get from this additional spectrum and the rich spectrum portfolio, on the 5G, because of the refarm that we will be able to do on 2600, our customers will experience 2.5x speed on 5G, which is significantly better than what they experience now. And plus 17% higher capacity on 4G will also augment the customer experience and also reduce our investments on Capex in the future. In terms of the savings that we get from this spectrum portfolio, as you may recall, before the spectrum auction, the price that we were paying for 2300 and the 850, which is the legacy spectrum that we had, was actually booked above the EBITDA, and that was roughly 7.1 billion. Post amalgamation, post the auction, we bought the 1500 and the 2300 megahertz spectrum for 26.4 billion, which on an annual amortization turns out to be 1.8 billion. So savings from this spectrum in terms of the P&L is a 7.1 billion minus the 1.8, which is a 5.3 billion annualized saving that will come to us every year until the next 15 years. However, the savings on the EBITDA is going to be 7.1 billion because now the spectrum moves from an OPEX model to an outright purchase on Capex from NBTC. That's why the amortization is going to come below the EBITDA. Then before I hand over to Noreen, just the key snapshots that we've had for this quarter. We've had a service revenue decline of about 1.1% on a year-on-year basis and negative 0.6% on quarter-on-quarter. However, normalizing for the network incident and the decline that we were expecting to have on the national roaming revenues from NT, we are reporting a growth on a year-on-year and a quarter-on-quarter basis, marginal growth. The EBITDA, which is a healthy plus 2.6% on a year-on-year basis and a negative 1.2 Q-on-Q. Again, if I were to normalize the network incident, this would have been growing faster, more than 4% on a year-on-year, and kind of a stable on a quarter-on-quarter basis. We are happy to report another quarter of reported net profit of about 2 billion, which is higher than what we reported in the previous quarter. And the normalized profit, which I exclude all the write-offs that we do on the network modernization, is actually at a 4.2 billion, kind of stable on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Last but not the least, we continue to report a healthy improvement in the leverage, which is down 0.7 turns on a year-on-year basis at about 4x, which is also improving quarter-on-quarter basis by about 0.1 turns. With this, I now hand over to Noreen to walk you through some more details on the financial performance of the company. Thank you, Kap.
Let me start with the top line. So overall, our revenue has been impacted, as Nakul mentioned, by a one-time network outage incident which happened in May. As a consequence, we have had to provide compensation to our customers, which is what is affecting our top line performance. On a service revenue basis, we have a 0.6% decline Q-on-Q, which is basically because of the network outage incident and also the lower domestic roaming fees that we get from NT. If we had normalized both of these impacts, there would have been marginal growth both year-on-year and quarter-on-quarter. If you look at the trend of the service revenue development from quarter 2 last year to quarter 2 this year, there is decline on mobile and TV, which is partially offset by the growth in online business. On a total revenue perspective, there are two things that are also affecting the revenue development. One is the declining network rental revenue that we get from NT, which is on an arrangement for the 850 megahertz as well as the 2300 megahertz. But because we have discontinued the 850 megahertz, we have been shifting traffic out, which is why we have less revenue as well. There is also subsequently less cost as well, ultimately benefiting the EBITDA. Additionally, we have decline in product sales, which is handset sales to our business, which is why a total revenue has declined 2.9% year-on-year. Moving on to mobile, the network outage incident had a one-time impact on the mobile service revenues, as mentioned. If we look at quarter 2, 32.3 billion, this was the overall impact of mobile and excluding the NT domestic roaming. NT domestic roaming, as you can see, has been declining from last year to this year, which we have already guided the market and has already been factored into our guidance for the year. On a subscriber count, we also have lower 2.9 million subscribers year on year. This is mainly split into three categories. The highest decline is coming from the macro situation in the country. We have also been focusing on the quality acquisition by reducing gross add and therefore reducing churn. We have about 1/3 of the decline coming from the network outage incident and the tourist inflow, which is lower on a quarter-on-quarter, month-on-month basis in Thailand this year. On an ARPU, we have growth on the blended ARPU. Postpaid has remained stable, while prepaid has also grown to 124 baht. Maybe let me reiterate on the compensation that we provided for the network outage incident here. For prepaid customers, we provided 10 gigabytes and 100 minutes free for 3 days in June. And for postpaid customers, we had a 1-day waiver on their main package, which was also for the month of June. So that is why the mobile service revenue is impacted in Q2. Moving on to the broadband business, we have 2.8% growth in the online revenue, which is resulting in 526 ARPU for Q2, which is a 1.1% improvement from the last year, from the same period last year. Subscribers has also improved by 0.4% quarter-on-quarter, which is ultimately resulting in the growth in this business. The pay TV, we have the impact of lower seasonal concerts this quarter, which is impacting our revenue as well as ARPU development for the quarter. We also have natural ongoing decline in the subscriber trend, which has been happening for many quarters now. On an OPEX, we have 8% decline year on year on the overall operational expenses. This is the result of our synergy realization as well as operational efficiency initiatives that we have in the company, as well as financial disciplines such as not investing in loss-making content for the year. If I can take you through line by line, on the regulatory cost, we have an increase because if I can relate back to the 850 megahertz spectrum that is now discontinued in Q3. We did a retrospective cost adjustment for the regulatory fees that we pay. Network cost has declined. This is mainly on account of the electricity tariff reduction from May this year, as well as the number of towers going down because of the merging of the two towers that we have for data control. Cost of sales, which is related to the handset sales, is declining in tandem with the product sales that I had mentioned earlier, which is seasonally not a product sales quarter for us. On a selling and general administrative expense, we have 12.4% decline because of synergies, and this is increasing 2.4% quarter-on-quarter because we have higher bad debts and consulting fees related to the spectrum auction this quarter. However, the overall impact of the synergies remain intact. So we do have reduction in selling and marketing expenses, headcount reduction. All of those benefits are still coming in on this SG&A item. Other cost of providing services, which is the one on the bottom here, is related to the network rental revenue that we get from NT, which is declining as we are no longer going to be using the 850 megahertz in a contract with NT. So from Q3 onwards, majority of this cost item will be going away. Then maybe we can go to EBITDA. So we have a 2.6% improvement in EBITDA from last year, as Nakul has already mentioned. And this is being driven primarily on account of our synergy realization as well as the financial discipline that we have shown in our performance. If we had normalized the impact of the NT domestic roaming as well as the network incident to our top line, EBITDA would have remained stable quarter-on-quarter. On a reported basis, EBITDA has declined 1.2% from last quarter. Our EBITDA to service revenue margin remains at 60.8%, which again would have improved if we had not had the network outage incident. Since amalgamation, which is Q1 of 23, we have a 5.5 billion growth in EBITDA. For Q2 25, we reported 2 billion net profit on a reported basis, which if we normalize for the asset write-off that we do in relation to the network modernization project, as well as a one-time tax gain that we had this quarter, we had a 4.2 billion normalized profit. And this is the development of the profit from last year to this year, where we had a loss of 1.9 billion last year. We have turned a profit of 2 billion this year. Our financial cost also continues to decline. We have reduction in interest expenses and also depreciation and amortization related to the network modernization. On Capex for Q2, we have 7.2 billion investment for the quarter. Almost half of this was pertaining to the network modernization initiative, which will be finished in Q3. So the benefit to the Capex will be coming in, almost half of that will be coming in after we finish the network modernization project. For net debt, we have a 33 billion reduction in total debt from Q2 24 to Q2 25. At the same time, our leverage has reduced, as Kunal has already mentioned, to 4.0x. I would like to point out that we will have an increase. Maybe we come to guidance later, sorry. Our effective interest rate has also reduced to 4% compared to last year, which was 4.2%. And we have in August raised debentures of 18 billion, weighted average interest of 3.4%. This is the development of 1H24 versus 1H25, where if you can see this one here, the service revenue excluding NT domestic roaming has declined 0.3%, which is what this will relate to the fact that we have also revised our guidance, which Kunal will explain after this. Our total OPEX has reduced 6.8%, again first half compared to first half this year. Our EBITDA has increased 4.8%, and our net profit has improved on a reported basis by 5.3 billion and on a normalized basis by 6.3 billion. Then I will ask Nakul to explain the guidance, first of all, the revision of 25 and then the long term.
Yeah, thank you, Noreen. If you recall, the guidance that we had given to the capital markets was a revenue growth of 2 to 3%, and EBITDA growth of very healthy 8 to 10%, Capex investments of about 28 to 30 billion, and to be profitable on a reported basis for the full year. Looking at the trends that we have on the macroeconomics and also the impact that we've had from the network incident, we are revising our guidance downwards from 2 to 3% growth to flat to 1% growth on the revenues. There is a marginal reduction in the EBITDA, which was 8 to 10% earlier. Now it is 7 to 8%, still growing much faster than the revenue. Capex and the profitability guidance remains unchanged, which is 28 to 30 billion of Capex investment, majority of it going towards the network modernization. And last but not the least, we turned profitable, as you're already aware, in the first quarter of this year already. Also, what we have done is that there is a slight revision in the leverage guidance that we had given for this year, which was earlier less than 4x. Now it is revised to about 4.1x, and that's primarily coming on account of the spectrum payment that we had to do this year after the auction, because the spectrum payment schedule now requires us to make a 50% payment this year. Earlier, the spectrum payments were always going on a 10% per year over a 10-year period. So that's the only reason for the revision in the leverage. I would also want to reiterate that there is going to be a consideration in the board on an interim dividend payout in the second half of this year, which is going to be more than 50% of the consolidated net profit of the company. And the payout is going to happen in the second half of this year as well. Now, in terms of the long-term guidance, even though there is a minor blip in the short term because of the macroeconomics, we want to reiterate the fact that the long-term guidance of the company is unchanged. The three KPIs that I had mentioned earlier, number one is the EBITDA margin to service revenue. From 63%, which is where we expect to end 2025, we will grow to 67% by the end for the year 2027, which is an improvement of 13 percentage points since amalgamation. Please note that we are already indicating a 9 percentage point improvement for the year 2025 as compared to 2023, and we're going to improve another 4 percentage points in the remaining couple of years. In terms of the capex intensity, capex as a percentage of the total revenue excluding the spectrum rental arrangement, which is expected to be 16% for the year 2025, is expected to go down to the 13 to 14 percentage range by 2027. Again, because the network modernization is going to be behind us, the capex intensity in the business can go down, and that's why the 13 to 14% of the sales is what we are indicating as capex intensity. And last but not the least, as I had mentioned earlier, from a leverage of 5.2x, which is what we inherited at the time of amalgamation, and we are currently at about 4x at the end of Q2 of 2025. We expect full year this year to end at 4.1. In fact, at the end of the year, we expect the leverage to be slightly higher. As I had explained, it's because of the spectrum payment. However, the long-term guidance on the leverage remains unchanged, which is that by 2027, we expect to bring the leverage down to less than 3.2x, which is a very healthy 2x reduction in the leverage since amalgamation. So in summary, short-term change in guidance, but the long-term guidance of the company remains unchanged. With this, I hand over to Noreen.
Yes, maybe we can now take questions. So the first question is whether we have opportunity to sell further stake in DIF to record profit. And second, related to that question is it necessary to renew the lease of the towers from DIF, which will expire in 2033? Yeah. And do we have option to replace those towers through new technology?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So let me first talk about the DIF in the context of our net debt, because the reason why anybody would ask us to try to sell our 20.5% stake in DIF to manage our debt. As Noreen also mentioned, that we have reduced our net debt by 33 billion over a 1 year period, and the leverage continues to go down. In the last 1 year, in 2024, actually, we refinanced 126 billion of our debt. And in this year alone, we have done 53 billion so far. So the need for us to sell stake in DIF is not that high for us. And let me be very transparent here. So that's why this is not being considered by the management so far. Then the other question, which has disappeared now, but if I remember, it was regarding what is going to happen to the lease contracts with DIF, which are expiring in 2033. To be very transparent with you, we are currently sitting in 25, and it's not right for us to comment, or not prudent for us to comment on what's going to happen beyond 2033. That's still 7-8 years ahead in time. And there may be changes in technology, there may be changes in how the telecom industry functions. So we will take a call on what do we need to do with these tower rental arrangements with DIF, maybe sometime after 2030. So that's why we are right now saying that we are committed to the contract that we have with DIF, and that payout is going to continue to happen as it is contractually agreed with DIF until 2033.
Thank you, Nakul. Then the next question, there are two questions which are exactly the same. What is the performance trend expected in the second half of the year?
Yeah. Again, thank you for the question. If you see first half, and if I look at the service revenue development for us, excluding the decline that we have on the domestic roaming with NT, the service revenue was a negative 0.3%. For the full year, we are giving a guidance of a flat to 1% growth. That means, simplistically put, we expect the trends to improve in the second half of this year. And the reason why that improvement in the second half of this year is going to happen is because the effect of the network incident, which is one time in nature, is going to be behind us. Of course, there is going to be a recurring impact of the network incident in Q3, but that's going to be less than what happened in Q2. Then, with the ongoing improvement that is expected in the macroeconomics, with the more for more concept that we do in terms of our customer value management techniques, with the ongoing growth that we have in the broadband business, because you would have noticed broadband business continues to grow, and how we expect to improve the ARPU, because you've seen the ARPU trends continuously improve on a year-on-year and a quarter-on-quarter basis as well. We then expect the second half of the year to be doing better than the second half of 2024. And that's why we are giving a guidance of flat to 1% growth on a year-on-year basis.
Thank you, Kunakul. We move on to the next one. After the merger is complete, is the headcount reduction complete? And do we estimate that the bottom line will continue to increase in the positive direction? Understand that one of the reasons for the company's return to profitability is the lean organization. It is a smaller reason, but yes, maybe.
Yeah. So to give you a context, over the last 2.5 years, we've had approximately 40% reduction in the headcount of the company. This doesn't necessarily translate to a 40% reduction in the people cost, because obviously the average salaries, will guide on what is the actual reduction, but it's still a very high percentage. We believe in the philosophy of EBITDA growing faster than revenue, and which means that we have this ability in our business to improve our cost structures as we go forward. As more and more digitization happens in the country, as more and more use of AI and machine learning happens in our organization, we are currently working on more than 40 use cases on AI. We believe that we will be able to trim our operating cost every year as we go forward. And hence, as a consequence, there is going to be a reduction in terms of the number of people. The quantification of that cannot be given right now, because we do have targets in place, but we haven't communicated externally. But after a 40% reduction, though the bulk of the reduction that has happened has been completed, because it was on account of merging the two organizations together, the next step of reduction is going to happen with the advent of technology, with the advent of simplification of processes, with the advent of simplified IT systems, merging IT systems of the two companies together, and using artificial intelligence to improve how we are running our operations and going for a touch-free operations as such. So yes, there is going to be further reduction going forward, but that is going to be linked to how we are improving our systems and processes going forward. And I think one of the biggest reasons for us improving on our SG&A is not the people cost, or people cost is a big reason, but it's not the only reason why our SG&A has gone down. I think the SG&A, if I'm not mistaken, has gone down like 30-35% since the time of the amalgamation, or probably even more. And the reason why the SG&A has gone down is, besides the people cost, there is significant improvement happened in the commercial cost structure as well. Over this period, we've managed to reduce our commission spends. As I think Noreen had explained, that this industry does a significant amount of gross ads every year. And as you know, the mobile business is already 130% penetrated. So as operators, we have been fueling a high gross and a high churn kind of a behavior in the market, where customers are coming up every month, and they're throwing away an old SIM and buying a new one. So we've been trying to reduce that behavior, and as a consequence, we've reduced the commission spends as well. We're also using a lot of synergy initiatives to reduce our commission spends, from moving from more expensive channels of how the customers do a top up to less expensive channel, like for example using True Money, moving customers from a traditional banking channel to a True Money wallet reduces the commission spends as well. And there are many such initiatives in that direction which reduce the SG&A cost. Bad debts is also another example where we have used the best methods of collection from DTech and True, and we've improved the collections quite well over the last 2.5 years. And as a consequence, our bad debts as a percentage of revenues have also gone down, which improves the SG&A as well. So in summary, this is not the only reason, but it is a good reason, but there are other reasons which are equally contributing to the big reduction in the SG&A over the last 2.5 years.
And then the final question that we have so far is expand on this year's dividends.
So yes, this is a topic that has been discussed many a times, and I just want to reiterate that the company. So firstly, the dividend is subject to the board of directors approval. But what we are saying in terms of the guidance that we are giving for the year, that there is going to be an interim dividend discussion in the second half of the year of 2025, subject to the board of directors approval. Which means as management, we're going to propose a dividend to the board, and which is going to be more than 50% of the consolidated net profits of the company. Please also keep in mind there is a significant improvement that you have already seen in the leverage over the last 1 year, where actually the leverage has gone down by 0.7 turns. We are very confident on our ability to refinance our debt. In fact, if you were able to do 126 billion in 2024, we've already done 53 billion in 25, and the remaining refinancing to be done in the remaining part of the year is also quite less. So we are confident that we can finance this debt, this dividend payout, and hence we are reiterating the fact that there is a positive affirmation from the management on a dividend to be declared in the second half of the year and also paid out in the second half of the year 2025. I hope I've made this very clear now.
Yes. We do not have any further questions. Okay, then we can.
Yeah, maybe we can wait a couple of minutes and see if there are any further questions or not.